David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. Why am I here with this gentleman? I know it looks like a before and after screen, him being the after, of course. I am with none other than DutchBondFan. This is the founder, this is the owner, this is the creator. He's somebody that I've been watching for years and I've admired. And you know that what I do is I tend to do these wonderful things where I'm trying to connect with other influencers in the Bond community. And this gentleman agreed to be on today. Oh boy, he has no idea what he's in for. But you actually have a real name. Your real name is not DutchBondFan. What's your real name?
Oh, it's not. My real name is, a lot of people wouldn't know this, how to pronounce it, but it's Jeroen.
Jeroen.
So, yes, yeah, that's actually really good. So just like the actor on The Living Daylights that plays Koskov, has the same name. A lot of people would say Jeroen or Jeroen. It's Jeroen. And I think Americans would say Jeroen, maybe close.
I am so happy that I did not attempt that. That would have been brutal. Just absolutely.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I can imagine as an American, it's hard.
It would have been hard. Well, first of all, I've got to tell people that where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the north of the Netherlands. I live in a small town called Sneek, exactly like the animal, only written differently, exactly. But yes, Sneek is where I currently reside.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me. I mean, you are literally DutchBondFan. You're from this place, and yet your English sounds better than mine. How is that possible?
Well, I wouldn't say it's better than yours, but I think it comes from a lot of Dutch people are very capable of speaking English, and I think it comes, for me at least, from watching a lot of television as a kid. None of it is dubbed in our country, like in Germany. So most Dutch people, I wouldn't say all, but a lot are very capable of speaking English. Though I think my accent, you can still clearly hear I'm Dutch.
Well, you should have a little something. I mean, you should sound international for sure. A lot of people go, David, you're from New York, right? So they can kind of pinpoint me for sure.
Yeah.
So let's start in the beginning. I mean, you know, one of the things I love to do is kind of peel away the onion, because right now, a lot of people can go on your YouTube, and you've got a huge following on YouTube, very popular, really good demographics. I think you have a nice mix of different age groups, a lot of mix, because I was looking, of different genders. So, you know, it's not just, oh, it's 98% male. You really have a good mix.
Yeah,
but it had to start somewhere. So think back to when you started this. Why did you decide to become this social media influencer?
Yeah, no, good question. I wanted to talk about the origins of my channel anyway. A lot of people may not know this, but my channel didn't start out as a Bond channel at all. It used to be a gaming channel on the Grand Theft Auto games when I was a little bit younger. So I started doing that around like 2010, I would say. And then I was always more of a Bond fan than a gaming fan, but that was just something I was doing with it at the time. And over the years, I grew more tired of it. The community, you know, more kids, a lot more competition, so to speak, less views. I was getting drops in motivation and views, and I was just always thinking, like, I want to do this Bond thing. It's my passion, and it's much more my street. And I would look at Haphazard Stuff, another major Bond channel, and Kelvin Dyson, of course, and we had the exact same amount of subscribers, but he was doing what I wanted to do, and I was like, I want to be part of this community as well. I have so much, because my opinion was so different to, for example, Kelvin Dyson's. I wanted to bring my own opinion to the table, because I had the feeling like I had the real potential to do it. So in the beginning, I think around 2015, I finally decided, let's just change it up. It's going to be a Bond channel now. And I also could have gone for the decision to just start a whole new channel, but I already gained like a subscriber base of around 5,000 subscribers from the gaming days at the time. And, you know, it's so hard to get noticed these days. So I figured, you know, I may as well use that foundation and try and make a complete switch. So I made this honest video saying, like, listen, it's going to be Bond now. It's going to be different. And in the beginning, that didn't take off immediately. You know, I was doing the early videos I'm known for now, the recapping episodes. And the first 3 or barely got noticed. Most of the comments were just from my own audience saying like, "Oh, great! When is the next gaming video coming out?" They would, it's just they take 30 hours to produce around that time, and then people would just act like that. So it was really frustrating. But then eventually, it gradually took off, and now I've got like 5 recapping episodes that passed the 100,000 views mark. So you just got to stick with it, basically. And
you do.
Yeah.
One of the things I liked about it, I mean, 2 things really. I remember seeing that video where you kind of went to everybody and you said, "Yeah, the middle name doesn't make sense." A lot of people go, "What?" And then the other thing is that you really started to create an identity, and that's one of the things I find with influencers. The ones that I really follow and quite frankly emulate in some ways are ones that create a personality around what they are. Like whenever I dial in, whenever there's a new video, I get very excited when you put something on there, and you're really good at doing like top 7, top 10, but you bring so much of your personality. Like you're not just recapping. In fact, the word recapping doesn't serve you justice. You give a very strong opinion one way or the other. You're not influenced. You're only influenced by like what's between your ears.
Yes. Oh, it's very honoring to hear, first of all. And it's also been a very conscious decision, because when I started doing these, I was mainly looking at haphazard stuff, because he was such a big inspiration to me. I've been looking to him for years. And I always noticed he did an interview a while back, and he always regretted when he started doing his reviews. Nowadays, he does like these really long, extensive, amazing reviews. They're just, I can't compare, in my opinion. But the early ones he did, the Connery ones and the Moore ones, he just did a 7-minute video of all the Connery movies, really quick. He always regretted that. So what I tried to do was find my own format and not copy anyone. So just try to I was thinking, like, if this recapping thing is going to take off, I want this first one of Dr. No to be the exact same format as, when I get the Spectre. I want them to really be like a series. And I also was very conscious of not copying Kelvin Dyson, because he does the camera thing, right? You see his face, and then he cuts back to the video. You see him in between. Mm-hmm. I didn't do that for 2 reasons. One, for not being accused of copying him. And 2, I think it ages my videos more. You see, if I look at a video from 5 years ago, you would see the younger me. I think I would get annoyed with that, and I want to, redo it. So that's why I just went with the voice only thing. And another thing, like you said, my own signature style. I always try to first go with the jokes. The humor, I think, is a big part of it. I try to... Yes. Believe it or not, when I watch these movies, I already kind of know what I'm going to say about it, but I'm trying to think of jokes, which is the hardest thing. Some humor works, some of it doesn't. And then I write these down, and then eventually it turns into a script, and then the whole process takes off. So it starts with the jokes for me, actually. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, because, again, the best influencers, I think this is very authentic. Like, there are some people out there, I see it all the time, maybe you do, where people start some sort of social media aspect to it, and I could tell they're trying to copy somebody else, or they're not being themselves.
Yes,
Calvin Dyson, when he goes, "Hello, Bond fan,"
it's great.
I mean, that's Calvin.
Him. Yeah, you couldn't copy that.
And that's his personality. Like, that's your personality. If you were trying to, mimic somebody else, it just wouldn't be true.
It wouldn't. No, and it's funny, because I've had a lot of. I see some small YouTube channels, mostly kids, who copy exactly what I do. They make the same jokes. I've seen this top 10 Bond actors videos, which is like a copy with a younger voice of mine. Like the same jokes, the same lines, even the same quote of Connery. When I'm comparing Connery to God, I had this kind of funny joke. He made the exact same quote in that. So it doesn't work if you go that way. So I always figured, if you want to do this and be a Bond content creator, do your own style, bring something unique to the table.
Absolutely. All right, so we've got to talk about where you live and exist in the global world. So you obviously, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, your strongest presence is as a YouTuber, is that correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. For me, it's always been mainly about being a content creator there. I do have like a Facebook fan page and a Twitter page. But I mainly use those platforms to, share my thoughts and update them on whatever project comes next. In recent years, I also added Patreon to the mix, which you may or may not be aware of. Yes, so that's another thing, but it's all based around YouTube in the end.
Yeah, you may have found the same thing. I used to try to do an equalization of Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And what I found nowadays, if you look, Instagram and Facebook are really to push people to my YouTube, because my YouTube is where the fresh new content is.
Yeah, I've seen your following there. It's huge. Mine are, on YouTube it's huge, but the social medias are platforms I definitely need to work on to branch those up as well. Definitely.
They're almost like the marketing devices to get people to your channel, which is probably how it should be. All right.
Yeah.
So you've got to tell me, because I mean, I told you I've been following you for a long time. How do you sit there in Snake and come up with content? Like, what drives your content?
Yes. Okay. So a lot of it is like what I explained, trying to be original, and I always at least definitely wanted to do movie reviews because I have a lot to say about them, and yeah, what drives my content. So I want to make this review. I want to give it my own format, and then sometimes I'm in the shower and I come up with one of the jokes because, like I said before, that's what it starts off with. Like a lot of the jokes that make it to the final project, they come from something that pops into my mind at night or in the shower or whatever. And nowadays it takes me roughly 40 hours to produce these things. It goes so much free time into these projects, especially the recapping ones. But it's also very rewarding because that at least nowadays, what I'm doing in this tiny little room, I'm doing in my back room there, is going to be seen by thousands of people. So it's very exciting to work on it nowadays. And a lot of people are already messaging me constantly about, I only have Skyfall and Spectre left at the moment. They're constantly flooding me with these 2 episodes that they want to see. And I kind of want to kind of space them out, not do them immediately because it's still a long way until Bond 25. And as an influencer, you essentially need to keep the entertainment going. So I want to split it out a little bit more and do other stuff in between as well, like the rankings, stuff like that.
Very smart.
Yes.
So you got to tell me, you mentioned something, thousands and thousands of people, and it's true. I mean, you've got thousands of people. It's global, like we talked about. It's very wide audience. So when did you, and this is probably going to be going years back, so you have to use your memory. When did you realize that you were part of this gigantic wide audience looking squarely at you? When did that hit you?
Yeah, so there were 2 major moments for me. Like I told you in the beginning, it was mainly the Grand Theft Auto audience in the beginning. And I really noticed after I did like You Only Live Twice, the 5th one, and Majesties, the tide was shifting. There were coming more and more Bond audience. The gaming audience was kind of stripping off. And then especially I remember vividly the moments where the other Bond channels started to notice me, like Kelvin Dyson would mention me. On James Bond Radio, I would see myself. I would see my videos pop up on forums. I would get in touch with Haphazard stuff, which I talk to a lot now. That's still the most mind-blowing moment for me, that these channels I always looked at that never knew me, I'm now a part of them, at least. And I still view them as like my inspirations. And now, as soon as they started mentioning me, because I used to reach out to Kelvin Dyson as a fan, and now we're kind of talking as equals. So that was one of the moments where I was like, yeah, I've reached this goal. I've reached the audience. I'm known in the community now, and that took some time, definitely, because like I said in the beginning, it was hard to get noticed. And then it just took off later. Yeah.
I remember there was a live video I had done not too long ago, and I think you had jumped on. And when people saw that you were on there, it was almost like a celebrity walking into an airport. It was really interesting because I don't think you realize that. Of course, I mean, happily, all of the people I've met, at least, are really down to earth and they're very humble. They don't walk around going, I'm an influencer.
No.
What was great was all of a sudden I saw all these people going, hey, Dutch Bond,
Yes. Yeah.
like, geez, who the hell just walked into the
Yeah,
door?
I was viewing Calvin Dyson's live stream, and you're right, that happens. But that would definitely happen the other way around as well. I think he's even more well known, of course, especially because you see his face in every video as well. He's like this real icon of the community too. But yeah, it's flattering because I've had one time when I was just out here in a club, and someone came up to me like, "Hey, you're a Dutch Bond fan." And that never, it's not like that happens every day. It just happens once in a couple of times, but there are actually people that know me from, and that was even more mind blowing. Geez, I mean, I'm drinking a beer in a club, and a guy walks up to me and he recognized me. It's not like I'm that big, but it does happen. It's great.
It's a numbers game, though. You hit that wider audience, and that is definitely going to
Yeah.
happen. All right, so you mentioned a couple things that you really enjoy being a part of this influencer community. Obviously, being seen, the connection of the people. What are some of the other things that really drive you, that you love about being an influencer?
Yes. Well, for me, it's the appreciation. I've got so much to tell you on that front. I've received a shit ton of fan mail, especially last year. I've got a lot. I could lift my phone and walk you up there. There is like a closet of books, and for example, here, fans sent me martini glasses with 007 Jeroen. Fans sent me the cocktail
Oh my
shaker of
gosh.
007. Model cars of the Aston Martin DB5, the BMW, novels. Someone from Germany sent me food and shampoo. And also, I'm going to get them without. Do you mind if I take the camera
No,
there to
go
look?
for it. Yeah.
All right, so this is my little pad here.
Nice.
Got a Bond collection here, but this whole shelf, this one, all these books came from YouTubers, from viewers, which is mind blowing.
Oh my God.
Letters as well. I'm not sure how this is picking up, but there's a letter from Puerto Rico, sorry, Germany, one from America. So much stuff. All these model cars here from viewers. This one as well. None of it is bought by myself. It's flattering. So yeah, that's stuff like that is the most rewarding, and also the comments you get from. Let me position this back carefully. There we go. I've seen people commenting on my videos saying like, I've been in a depression, and I watched your recapping series, and it
Yeah.
really helped me get through it. And there's people saying I watch them with my mom and dad every time a new one releases. They watch it with the family, which to me is like, well, it's mind blowing that it brings so much joy. Essentially, just these tiny projects I make here in Snake. So yeah.
It can't help to affect you, and hopefully none of us become so big that we don't think about that. Because I know for me, for example, I've gotten mail, but a lot of emails from people that, there's one gentleman whose son has spina bifida, so they watch the videos together, and it's a connection time together. There's another
Yes.
gentleman that got in contact with me that he's a traveling salesman, so he's in hotels like 20 days out of the month. And he said when he gets to a different hotel, if there's a new video, there's at least some sort of familiarity to his life, even though it's a strange hotel. And it's like you sit back, and when you're doing these things and it's hard and it takes you 40 hours, I think it gives you a lot of peace and satisfaction that you're entertaining and connecting with so many people.
Yes, no, absolutely. That's you got it spot on there. It's rewarding. It's a lot of your free time. These videos, when I upload them, there's barely any revenue from them because they instantly get claimed, and that's why I do have the Patreon thing to kind of make up for that. But really, though, it's not about the money. It's about the reactions, the joy you bring, and the appreciation. That's to me, that's still the most mind blowing thing.
I love it too. All right, so now we're going to go into something that's going to start off positive, and it could get negative. So bear with me.
Sure.
So we talked about the influencer thing. We talked about some of the fans and followers of your channel. There is a persona to the Bond community. What are some of those things about the Bond community as a whole that you really like?
Oh, there, I actually got to compare communities as well, because I used to have like this gaming Grand Theft Auto fan base, which there were some very nasty people, not all, of course, but there were a lot of, and especially younger kids. I think the Bond community is so mature. I rarely see people flame each other or, they do get in discussions, but it's always very respectable. And I think the Bond community in general likes to hear other opinions, and they usually respect each other anyway. That's part of the beauty of it. Mm-hmm. So I honestly, I wouldn't really have anything negative to say about it. I've actually been thinking about it and reading some of your questions beforehand, but I couldn't figure out what I wasn't. I've never been annoyed with the Bond community yet. Maybe it's yet to happen, but I've got nothing but positive things to say about it. And like you say, it's the demographics are very different. I've got this community on the people that support me on Discord. I've got a separate server where they're all chatting. There's people born in the 1950s. There's kids born in the 2000s. There's people from New Zealand and Australia, Canada, and they're all interacting. It's great. So it's nothing but love, basically. At least that's how I experience it. So,
but that's such a great attitude. That's such a positive attitude. I know some people get a little, some of the speculation that goes on, some of the warring. I mean, if you're part of forums, for example, some of the forums out there, they start to rip into each other a little bit. And it's very simple. It's like a channel on a TV. You just change it or move away from it, walk away from it. But I think your attitude of looking at it and saying nothing but love, that's kind of how you have to approach it.
Yeah, you have, but it's also what I get mostly, occasionally I get like people hating, but rarely. So I've had a few, but it barely happens. So that's fantastic.
All right, now we're going to play a fantasy game. Get ready.
Fantasy game, okay.
So Eon calls you up and says, thank you so much for being an influencer. You've done so many positive things in the community. You've touched so many people, even when we didn't have a movie. You know something? We are going to give you an opportunity to interview and film any celebrity dealing with the Bond films that you could. You get to pick anyone.
Yeah.
You choose and why.
I think for me, probably Robert Davi from Franz Sanchez.
Yes,
because he's my favorite Bond villain, and I love that guy. He's also singing recently. He's doing. I'm a great fan of Frank Sinatra, and he's doing that. He's singing Sinatra songs lately. I don't know. I think it would just be fascinating to talk to him. Also, maybe if I get to pick another one, maybe Famke Janssen. Xenia Onatopp, because he's Dutch, and also probably my favorite henchman or henchwoman in the series. So no, those are, I could go for the option of Sean Connery being my ultimate Bond, but there is a saying that you don't meet your heroes. Maybe it disappoints or who knows, but yeah, that's what I came up with.
There's a reason that saying exists, and it's probably because it's true. Yeah, that's a good call. Well, I mean, first of all, those are two really good picks. Have you ever reached out to Robert Davi?
No, never. I follow him on Twitter, I think. I've never really got to talk to him, but that's just one. He is my favorite villain by a long, really large margin. I think he's one of the best villains that we had, and he's so maybe overlooked even. I think he gave such a great performance in License to Kill. So incredible.
It's funny, Joe Darlington and I just did a kind of review of, the best and the worst, and we're kind of going back and forth. And we said the same thing about License to Kill. It doesn't get a lot of love, but he is seriously one of the best bad guys in the James Bond series.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right. We're going to keep with that phone call from Eon. Okay, so Eon's still on the phone with you, and they're writing down Robert Davi and Famke Janssen, and they put Sean Connery as a maybe, and they go, all right, would you consider being an influencer as your main job? Would you consider it?
I would, yeah. I hope I would have what it takes. I would definitely have to step up my game and produce even more. But if I get to do it full time and branch out a lot, maybe I would be interested. Although maybe I would be even more interested if Eon actually calls me to be part of them and to actually be part of their films, to be an actor in them. of course, every man's dream is to be Bond. I don't know if you would be Bond as a Dutch person, but yeah, but no, I would consider that as an influence. Yeah, you're already doing it as your hobby, and who wouldn't want to make their hobby their work? So yeah, I think my answer is definitely yes.
See, I think it would be cool if they took the top 15 influencers online in the James Bond community and made them all MI6 agents sitting around a table, all,
Oh, that would
all
be sweet.
film. So this
Oh
way,
man, that's a
there's
great
Daniel
idea.
Craig, and they sweep over, and it's literally like all the influencers, different age groups.
That would be amazing. Yeah, you would see you and me sitting, and Tom and Chris,
Yeah.
Kelvin, all
And then
the whole.
at the end, you'd see this. Hello, Bond
Yeah,
fans.
yeah, no, that would be amazing.
Oh my gosh, I love it. All right, so obviously you are privy. I've seen some of your opinions, and I love them around Bond 25. A lot of things are heating up, a lot of speculation. As a Bond fan, as an influencer, what are your hopes and expectations for Bond 25?
Yeah, I always feel like I'm in the massive minority here compared to most people in the Bond community that doesn't mind the Spectre storyline continue. I don't mind. We know Madeline Swan is returning. There's a lot of people that are very against Christopher Waltz returning as Blofeld. I wouldn't mind if he does, just as long as we get something good. That's
Yeah.
my main concern. Also, a lot of people are saying like they desperately, which is fair by the way, they desperately want Craig to return to a standard mission. Not have the personal stuff involved, not have him go rogue again. The stuff we've seen most of the time, which is fair. But even if that happens again, I wouldn't care. I just want a really good Bond film.
Yeah.
And if you look at the final Bond films of most actors, Diamonds Are Forever, A View to Kill, Die Another Day, they're all below average, generally speaking. And I just hope that Craig gets a better treatment, that he goes out with a bang, because this is his final one as well, after all. So yeah, I just hope. And so far, I'm not that convinced. If you look at what is going on in the production now, there's so much chaos seems to be going on, which is sad. I hope things turn around and they blow us away next year.
Yeah, and I constantly am kind of putting myself backwards and putting them in their shoes and saying, the chaos has been mostly reported by the media. So I'm hoping that chaos is just, hey, it's clickbait. It's a way to sell more newspapers. And really, when they bring another writer in, maybe it's just to, sharpen it up a little bit to get the best movie. At least that's what I'm putting into my head.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just a wait and see for us. And you're right about the media. That's our main influence now, but it's also, we want to hear from Eon already. When is the press conference? What is the cast going to be? What is the title? We're so curious now. Give us something.
Exactly. Maybe while we're recording this, it's happening. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
All right. Final question, but I think it's an important one because whether people know you, whether they followed you, or maybe they're seeing you for the first time on my channel and they're going to go check you out. Dutch Bond Fan, I think, has gone through, like you've talked about, this evolution, this change over time. But where do you want to go from here? Do you want to stay the same? Do you want to change things up?
Right now, I'm thinking about. I actually already started doing it. I'm branching out on. I like the recapping format so much, and I think most people, it's the most successful thing on there. So I want to try that format on other films as well. I'm currently working on Kingsman, which is the next project. I'm still in the scripting process, so it still takes a while. But I want to slowly do still remain a Bond channel, and keep that my main focus, but kind of do the format, try it on other films as well, see what works and what doesn't. Maybe the Mission Impossible series, maybe something completely non-spy related as well. I just want to slowly, because it's a hobby it's so much fun to do. So I've got ideas for years to come. So yeah, branching out a little bit with other franchises.
That's a great idea because, let's face it, there's, even if a Bond movie happens as frequently as every 2 years, we're still going to have downtime. We're still going to go to the theater. We're still going to enjoy entertainment. So we don't want you to go dark. We want you to have other content to talk about. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. No, exactly, and I wouldn't want to go dark myself. I love doing this. So I do have like these moments where I'm really busy in my private life, and then a month or maybe later nothing shows up. But I'm always working something in my head and get the ideas out there. And usually, because my videos have this system where the supporters see my videos 2 weeks earlier. So sometimes videos are already up, but only the supporters know about it. And then I have to wait 2 weeks myself. Like, I'm curious how the rest is going to respond to this. But it's cool to have this tiny community be the first eyes and really give you some good feedback on it. And then it becomes available later.
It is. It's like a treat for them, and you're giving something back. I think it's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, great. First of all, thank you, because your time is valuable. It's just cutting into your editing time, your life. But I think it also it gives people a better idea, because if, and hopefully they do, you will be completely entertained. They also know a little bit about the man behind the scene, because you're right. I mean, your face doesn't always appear. It's usually on a thumbnail or something like that.
Yes.
Not always in front of the camera. So this has been a treat. It's been a treat for me. I'm a fan.
Me as well. I love doing this. Awesome, and it's great that you're doing this with more Bond influences. I think your channel is the perfect channel to do it, because you're branching out as well on so much different stuff. And this is a fantastic project. So I was honored to be included. Honestly.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure we're going to be connecting with each other soon. Our paths will cross. I promise
yes.
that. All right. Well, this has been David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience, and we will see you very soon. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.